very basic on how you do these things. But the hard part is no center, whether it's SOS, the Wildlife Center of Venice, the Farmer Pelican Man, Peace River, none of us are set up for an oil spill. When I went to that center in California, they had pipes on the, I'm using this like a mic, they had pipes on the wall that were this big, and that was all heated water all day long. None of our centers could do that. They had a whole facility built in California. Actually, they had 3 of them, 1 for mammals and 2 for birds, and they're part of the state program. This oil spill here was actually managed by their counterpart called Tri-State out of Delaware. I know the directors of both centers. They do amazing work, and they usually team up together on these big oil spills. One will take the lead, and the other will back them up. But these centers, but no little center can do these things. You have to pump all of that up. No septic tank in our county can handle that oil. So I learned a lot going over to California to train for these kind of events. I was panicked about them like all of our peers are. Because I mean, if that had hit here, it would have put all of us to work for a long time. And we would have needed to have been training and recruiting. I mean, it just would have been a nightmare. We were called to go to the Panhandle. Lee responded at different spots. Lee's got more experience at this than I do. She had a Tampa oil spill. So she dealt with this firsthand. But when the Horizon spill came, you know, every oil spill you have to have new state accredited training for every unique spill. So when Lee was going and teaching people how to do this, it was good basic knowledge, but she wasn't telling people they'd have to go take another class with someone else to do the same, to do all the work. She was charging people for classes in the middle of an emergency. When I was trying to tell people the chain of command and the way to do it, I was competing with her in the local press. So I think she did a wonderful job, and I still network with her. She really helped us with a grant when she moved that really helped us, get through a really tough year. Lee Fox, people that do this, there's not many of them. So people like Lee are my predecessors, the ones I learned from, the people that have done this for many years. But like my old predecessor, Pelican Man, Dale Shields, some things change with the times. Like, and I'm set in my ways. I hate to say that even come out of my mouth. but I mean, they're like pelicans. He used to feed hundreds of pelicans in the backyard. When the cold snaps, because when the water gets too cold, the fish dive deep and the pelicans can't fish. Pelicans are supposed to migrate, but because everyone feeds them at all the docks, they'd rather stay. So when you have that, so in the old days, centers like Suncoast Seabird Sanctuary and Pelican Man used to feed them by the hundreds out of the backyard. Quite the show. I can tell you, I'll probably never see it again. It was an awesome experience. Probably wasn't the best for the pelican. But now everyone's united in the message that they should not be fed. It's illegal to feed them now. And they are supposed to be encouraged to migrate, although we know a lot of them are going to be on the pier in the cold snaps, not going anywhere. But that was one of those things that changed, over time. I mean, we used to do that every year, like clockwork. The water temperature got too cold. They'd be bringing wheelbarrows of thread herring out, and they all knew when it was coming. They were waiting. But those kind of things change. So there are some things you learn. Now the old timers though, they brought the pelican back from the brink, so they had a different perspective on it than we do. Now that they're back, and we actually restocked Louisiana. I think they're the state bird of Louisiana. Florida restocked them; they were gone. So I mean, now we take them for granted. They're on every pier. so I mean, but it's the heroes like Lee Fox and Dale Shields and that make these things possible. Yeah.
How do you conduct your fundraising?
We're very grassroots in our fundraising. Most of our fundraising is mostly, again, due to helping the person in their backyard when they need help. They call us, we come, and we try and put them on a mailing list and all that stuff, and so that really is the main direct way. But that's how we've got most of our support over the years. Now, we do a lot of booth events, and we do some dinner parties, and we're doing the Giving Challenge, and we do a lot of these kind of things, but not having a zoo or a nature center, we just don't have anything. We don't really have a place to bring people to use as a tool. So really, I mean, we just double down on rescue and rehab. You know. Yeah.
So what do you think of the commissioners, the county commissioners voting August 24, whether or not to allow hunting?
I'm opposed. I've already told them through SLOC.
Right, in our county parks.
Yeah, and that again, I mean, it's just like the dog. It's the intent, okay? If, to my mind, I mean, this is my personal opinion, I'm not allowed to really, I'm not gonna get into any detail because I'm new to this stuff and I'm not supposed to talk about my vote or anything. But my opinion is intent. So if you buy a place that's called environmentally sensitive land, okay, it's right in the name, then to me, it should not be used as a public hunting area. Now,
Exactly.
if there's a feral hog problem and they want to control it, I don't see that as the same thing. I don't see that as recreational hunting. If they have a species, let's say they get anacondas and they're loose. I think Northport recently had a python. They
Boa.
called us about what?
It's a boa.
A boa. So that's not something that we do a lot with, but those kind of things, you know, if they're discovered in our parks, they're going to have to take it seriously and they're going to have tools to control it. However, that doesn't mean you want every yahoo playing with their gun next to the birders and next to the, you know, the hikers and the canoers. You know, that it doesn't mix. Now, again, I'm not anti-hunting. I don't hunt personally, but I eat meat and I know where it comes from. You know, and I used to fish. It's the same thing. But the reality, again, it's intent. If you're funding for these organizations, or like, well, let me put it this way, you know, that the Amendment 1, the 70,
Yeah.
you know, Amendment 1, we all bring that up all the time because it's so disheartening how they're spending that money. But you know, it's intent. Intent is what we're talking about. So if you could get I'm someone that says if you could get a gun range, or you know, let's say you don't have the funds to get this piece that you need for a greater wildlife issue, and that funding is there for a hunting spot if it's designated properly and done right. I mean, we realize hunting is going to go on. I'm okay with it. But to take away environmentally sensitive land purchases for people to go play with their guns is crazy to me. I mean, I'm not a fan of that. Now, I live in an area where all my neighbors shoot all the time. And even though when I first moved out, I live on the Mayaca River in a kind of a wooded, wild area. And I personally would much rather have the people shooting occasionally than have it all clear cut and developed. So it can be okay if it's, but that's, you know, private property sporadically hunted that way is a lot different than the place that's opened its doors for everyone to go and bring, you know, limitless guns and limitless ammo. And then that brings other issues up, I mean, which could go on and on, like, is it lead shot?
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, you know, how environmentally sensitive are they? You know?
I mean, there's a lot of really good ethical hunters out there.
Sure.
And I'm with you, I had no problem with people if they, I mean, I like my beef and my pork.
Yeah, I mean,
if that's, I know where it comes from and I understand. If you're gonna utilize the animal and everything and you're gonna be an ethical hunter and not use the lead like you're not supposed to be doing it anyway, then that's fine. But like you said, doing it in a park where we have environmentally put it aside to be the way it's supposed to be.
And a lot of our conservation funds do come from hunting groups. They love to bring it up, and they're correct. It's true. But again, you know, we can all have our different needs met with a master plan that doesn't wiggle every election. and you know, really, again, if they used it properly, they could protect more land. You know, in addition, using those funds, but they shouldn't use the land already spoken for by bikers and hikers and birders and, you know.
They wouldn't like it if we wouldn't took their hunting land away from them.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, how would they like it if, well, the guys want a bicycle,
Well,
so I'm sorry, you're gonna have to, that's ours now. You can't hunt there anymore. They'd be like, hey, you can't do
Most
that.
of you guys sound pretty informed. I don't want to keep talking about stuff you guys already know, but I mean, when that bear issue that caught, did you guys read that newspaper article that showed that there was that one cattle rancher that had so much influence in that in
That's
the
the
middle?
panther thing, isn't it?
I thought it was the bear, but it might have been the panther.
There's a land.
The land's needed for both. But I mean, that one person with no
Pretty.
real authority was given this huge,
That's Panther, yeah, she's on, right, the board, I believe, the commission of Fish and Wildlife.
and I understand the rancher should have a seat at the table, but why would she get someone full at the table?
Because she's got a lot of this.
And that's the problem,
And
corruption.
she's tied with our governor.
Yes, and that's a big problem. So is Mr. Neal, a good friend of mine.
There you go.
So, I don't want to beat a dead horse, so to speak. Yes.
I have two questions for
Yes.
you. One, do you know if the city of Fort Charlotte has an animal control officer position like the one that we're maybe gonna lose here in North?
I don't think they do. I know, I work with Charlotte County Animal Services all the time. So I think that's the entity there. Well, like the only one Sarasota County covers all of Sarasota County except for Northwood. They're kind of unique.
Secondly, are you familiar with, boy, I don't know how to say this. There's an area in Port Charlotte. It's behind 776, Eljo Bean. There's a baseball stadium there. Behind there, it's a scrub jay habitat.
By Tippy Canoe.
You can, what is it?
Tippy Canoe.
Yep.
I've
That's the
actually
name of
videotaped a scrub jay there.
I've walked in there, and that's the only thing you're allowed to do it, but as far as I'm ready, you know what, it's sandy soil, I think that would be great. Well, I could be wrong, here I go through there, that might be a possibility for a gopher tortoise.
It sounds like it.
There are some in there too.
Sounds
I've
like
actually
It
seen
is
burrows in there.
already, Dave, I think
Yeah,
so.
it's an event.
It already is one.
It's
I
already,
think so, yeah.
It's already a park.
so it's already placed, like if we had one that was injured or something, it could be released.
I
there's
don't
a
know if they can
possibility to
release
bring it
there.
in.
It's not a release area, but
Well, they
it's
have to go
essentially-
through a process to get, reacclimated to a new area. So it's like what you were reading in Mr. Ashton's book. There's a process to reintegrate them to new areas.
But it's a possibility for.
And
That would
those
be a good
places
spot.
need to be identified, absolutely.
There's a really good spot in Venice that would do it off
Yes.
Conseco Road. There's a little park up there too.
Port Charlotte's not a
It's
city,
full of
am I right?
tortoises.
Correct, right.
Port Charlotte's not a city.
Oh, that's it.
No.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're not an incorporated city.
But,
That's why they have county.
the Charlotte County animal people take all of the strays that they pick up, wildlife and domestic, to the animal welfare team out on Harbor View. And that's for the dogs and cats and bunny rabbits. So that's how that works in Charlotte County.
Where's that place in
Does
Venice?
the city of Sarasota or
Here.
Venice, or do they have their own animal?
No, Northport is unique within the Sarasota County. I'm less familiar with Charlotte County, except for Charlotte County Animal Services cover the whole county, and we work with them.
You can look it up on natural lands on Sarasota County
Any other
website.
questions? Well, thank you all very much for having us. And, if you ever
Thank
need
you
any
for
help,
being here.